Could ancient humans live to 80? Imagine walking into a cafe today and seeing an 80-year-old man sitting comfortably with his coffee. Maybe he drove there. Maybe he checked the news on his phone. Maybe later he'll go home and complain that modern music isn't as good as it used to be. Nobody looks at him and thinks, wow, you survived. Because today, living to 80 feels normal. In many places, people expect it. 70 feels ordinary. 80 feels respectable. 90 gets impressive. And if someone reaches 100, they become local news. But now imagine telling someone that an ancient human lived to 80. Immediately, it sounds wrong. People picture prehistoric life as short and brutal. Everyone dying at 25. Nobody old enough to have opinions. Nobody old enough to say things like, back in my day. Just young hunters constantly sprinting through forests until eventually something ate them. But is that actually true? Could ancient humans live to 80? Or did nobody make it that far? Because surprisingly, the answer depends on one enormous misunderstanding. And it starts with one statistic people repeat all the time. Ancient humans only lived to 30. You've probably heard that before. Maybe 30, maybe 35. Sometimes people even say 20. And technically, those numbers are not completely wrong. But they create a very misleading picture, because average lifespan is not the same thing as maximum lifespan. Imagine a group of 10 people. 5 die before age 5. The other 5 live to 70. Average lifespan suddenly looks terrible, but half the group still became old. This is exactly what happens when people talk about ancient humans. The biggest reason ancient life expectancy looked low was not because everyone suddenly exploded at 30. It was because enormous numbers of children never reached adulthood. Infant mortality was devastating. Childhood was dangerous. Disease, infection, accidents, malnutrition, environmental stress. Even relatively small problems could become fatal. Today, a child gets dehydrated. Parents worry. Go to a clinic. Problem solved. 50,000 years ago, there was no clinic. There wasn't even a concept of medicine in the modern sense. Your options were mostly rest, wait, or get lucky. That alone massively lowers average lifespan. So when scientists estimate average prehistoric lifespan around 30 or so, that doesn't mean people turned 30 and collapsed. It means many people never got the chance to become old. But what happened if someone survived childhood? Now things become interesting. Evidence from archaeology and studies of hunter-gatherer populations suggests that reaching your 60s was absolutely possible, even 70s, and maybe in rare cases 80s, which feels strange, because ancient humans are usually imagined as permanently exhausted. But think about this. Your body does not automatically know what year it is. Your cells do not care whether civilization exists. Human biology is ancient. If a modern human and an ancient human both avoided disease, starvation, severe injury, and bad luck, their bodies were not operating under completely different rules. Ancient humans were sus, just without antibiotics, which sounds manageable until you remember. Antibiotics are kind of important, because one of the biggest threats to ancient life wasn't predators. It was incredibly boring things. Tiny cuts, bad teeth, simple infections, things modern people barely notice. Imagine getting a cut on your foot today. Annoying. Now imagine getting the same cut 80,000 years ago. You still need to walk, still gather food, still avoid infection. No antibiotics, no disinfectant, no urgent care. A tiny problem could become a major one. This is why prehistoric life wasn't necessarily violent. It was fragile. And then there was food. Ancient humans were not starving every second. That stereotype is exaggerated. But food security was inconsistent. Some periods were easier, others were not. And chronic shortages affect the body. Modern aging research shows that nutrition influences long-term health. Ancient humans had no multivitamins, no balanced meal plans, no nutrition labels. Your diet depended on geography, season, luck, and knowledge. Then there were accidents. This may sound obvious, but ancient environments were full of opportunities to get injured. Falls, animal encounters, travel, weather, tool use. Again, not because life was constant action movie chaos, just because recovery was harder. Today, someone breaks a leg. They rest, receive treatment, recover. Ancient humans break a leg, and suddenly daily life becomes extremely complicated. But here is where the story changes, because humans did something unusual. Humans helped each other. Archaeologists have found evidence suggesting some ancient individuals survived injuries or limitations that would have been difficult alone, healed fractures, signs of long-term care, people living despite conditions that likely required support. That means something important. Ancient humans didn't simply abandon everyone who slowed down. Groups invested in each other, which tells us something surprising. Older people may have mattered, because if old age existed, it probably had value. Imagine living in a world without books, without internet, without written instructions. Knowledge lives inside people. The older someone becomes, the more information they carry, where food appears, which plants are dangerous, how seasons behave, where water exists, how to make tools, how to avoid mistakes. Suddenly, the old person becomes more than an old person. They become storage, human hard drives. And unlike modern hard drives, they also complain about younger generations. This creates something anthropologists sometimes discuss, the grandmother hypothesis. One proposed explanation for unusually long human lifespan is that older adults may have improved survival for descendants and communities, helping with childcare, sharing knowledge, supporting group stability, which means humans may not have evolved to stop mattering after reproduction. Older individuals may have remained useful, and usefulness changes survival. Think about modern life. If electricity disappeared tomorrow, who would you trust more? Someone who watched survival videos, or someone who spent 50 years actually doing difficult things? Experience matters. It always did, and maybe that's why humans became strange. Unlike many species, we developed long lives after reproduction. That's unusual, which brings us back to the original question. Could ancient humans live to 80? Yes, probably, but rarely. Not because the human body couldn't do it, because getting there was difficult. You had to survive childhood, avoid infection, avoid severe injury, navigate changing environments, stay socially connected, stay lucky, very lucky, and perhaps that's the strangest part. Ancient humans were not dying because 30 was old. 30 was often just the age enough bad things hadn't happened yet. If someone made it through enough winters, avoided enough accidents, stayed connected to a group, their body could keep going much longer than people. Imagine. Which means somewhere in prehistory, there may have been an 80-year-old human sitting near a fire, watching younger people make obvious mistakes, thinking the next generation had become soft, and saying something humans have probably been saying for tens of thousands of years. When I was your age, some things turn out to be ancient.
I've been thinking about what you said, about the stars and where they go. Do you think they ever get lonely, just floating